Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I am continuing the series of building our facades for Diagon Alley. Up next I'm doing this area here where we've got the kind of awkward brick wall over there. I'm going to rip that out. I'm going to rip that whole strip out and get to work. So the next facade I'll be working on is Holly's apartment from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Here are all the parts I need. Those are all of the ones that I gathered and ordered. I knew exactly what I needed. Obviously, I'm going to use more in addition to that. So, funny story. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but when I started planning for this facade, I actually originally was going to do Carrie Bradshaw's apartment. But just due to some part restrictions with the color that I was planning on using, I changed my mind, and actually this wall is actually going to be very similar. So this is how I originally planned it. Nothing special. This was the first one that I designed, and then I moved on to using graph paper. So this is just my very basic layout. And, you know, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. Is very straightforward. Yeah, nothing too special. I sort of planned out how I'm going to do my windows and my doors. It makes sense to me, and that's all that matters. I don't use this fancy designer program or anything. I essentially, yeah, it makes sense to me. That's, what can I say? So I sort of draw it out, and then I went through and figured out all of my parts. So here are all of my parts. Let's empty them out and get them sorted. So here are all my parts. I've got inverted slopes, these modified bricks, I just call them fancy bricks. I've got some slopes, arches, bunch of snot bricks. I know that I'm not going to need that many, but we had them in our inventory and I just threw them in there. I've got my door, some little fence pieces, lots of black windows, and one of these little fancy windows here. I use those in my Grimold place as well. And some dark tree limbs, just a couple of those. Then I've got lots of tan pillars, 1x2 plates with the rail. Then I've just got some plates, my 1x1s. There's some cheese wedges, studs, plates, and some of these little small slopes, some bricks, and some tiles. So I've been building for a while now, and I'm about halfway done this facade. Figured I'd give you a little status update here. So I've got my two windows at the base here. This brick here is actually supposed to just represent a door because there's a basement suite or whatever. I've got my door. It's just a big grand entryway. I haven't done my staircase yet, clearly. I wanted to see what the whole thing looked like sort of before I got into that. So I've got these big pillars and they are on jumpers, so they kind of are in the center. This big archway, the cool window in the back, there's an arch above it. These windows turned out pretty cool. They're taller than the above floor, and they also have the little slopies here, and the third floor is going to be the same. So yeah, the windows I think are pretty cool. It took a while to figure out what I was going to do. Actually, this was my original, you know, it's not complete clearly, but this is how I was playing with the original idea of it when I was designing it. And that's what it ended up being. So I did change it quite a bit. I just made up this one that I'm about to install. So I'll kind of walk you through how I did those windows. I took 4 snot bricks tall. This is for the second and third floors. For the first one, it is 6 tall, so I took those. Then I added my cheese wedges, so we end up with that. That's going to go on either side. Then it's on the rail plates, so it'll go on either side of that. And then I took a 2x2 to clip the 2 slopes together, and it's going to be jutted out a little bit like that. And then once I'm installing it, I'm also going to be putting in this snot brick with that little slope And then my final product is this, and I'll install it just like that, and then I'll reinforce it with more plates and then brick as I go up. So I'm gonna build up the 3rd floor, the roof, and then I'm gonna do my staircase and a little fence right here. And then I also forgot, not really forgot, I wanted to see the final product before I actually went ahead and installed it, but I'm gonna have to go back and add some snot brick. I actually am gonna be doing some like vines, so I have to add that as well. Yeah, so here's a little just progress report. It's coming along pretty well so far. And there you have it. Here is Holly's apartment from the classic Breakfast at Tiffany's. I think it turned out pretty great. I did end up changing some of the details from my original design. It obviously was a lot easier once I was actually putting it together, and it looks awesome. I added quite a bit of detail on the top. We've got those, whatever they're called, fancy bricks that I was mentioning earlier. Those rail plates just to give an extra texture. Lots of detailing around the windows. Lots and lots of windows. They're a little bit different on every level. This one you can see doesn't have those slopes below. That was actually intentional. And then the lower level doesn't have the slopes at all. Then of course we've got some, they're now a little bit hidden, but there's a couple windows on the bottom. And like I mentioned earlier, that black brick there is just supposed to represent a door because there is like a lower suite or a lower apartment on the bottom there. And we've got a nice nougat staircase. I would have liked to make like a proper tiled railing that came, you know, all the way down using connectors, but I sort of figured that it wasn't going to look as good just with the size of the staircase, so that was all right. Then we've got this dark green and white awning on the 2 lower windows, and they are extended using 1x1 bricks, and that is how it looks in the movie. I think that that was a pretty good part usage there. Then I use these dark green tree limbs, and that is representing vines that go kind of along the lower windows as well as the railing. So stuck those in. I just using a snot on the side of the wall there. Then just a basic fence elements to make a little railing in the front. Tiled my sidewalk. My little fancy door. That turned out pretty good, I think. Using those large slopes. Some jumpers to make the pillars stick in the middle. Lots of arches, lots of slopes used in this. Turned out really well, I think. And then there's some inverted slopes at the top, and then it's just plated. So turning around, you can see just like the Grimold Place facade, it is just 2 bricks deep or 2 studs deep, and then all of the detail popping off. And then my staircase was a little bit bigger, so it comes onto the sidewalk a bit more. And if I turn it, you can see, you know, I've got a decent amount of support. It's not pretty, but it doesn't need to be. I might end up with all of the facades actually just kind of putting some maybe white or black bricks just to fill in the window so you can't see through. I'm not too concerned, but we'll see how much it needs to be filled in. Pretty basic in the back, wasn't too concerned, and we're only going to see this first brick here. So I did, just because we have lots of the brown bricks, I did use a few of those to fill in the gaps. But yeah, I think it looks pretty great. So if you're familiar with Breakfast at Tiffany's, maybe this is familiar to you, maybe not. But either way, it just looks like a great city building, in my opinion. It turned out really great. And just for reference, here is a shot of the building as it is in real life. It doesn't have that white and green awning, but here is a photo of it from the film where it does have that awning. And you can also see those vines going up the house as well. I think this actually ended up being a pretty good likeness of the building in the film. Let me know what you think below. So I hope that you enjoy this. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for some of the next facades that we'll be building. as well as the full overview and placement of them along Diagon Alley on the Bricksie channel. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.